Hi, I'm Dea. I'm a mom. I talk about all things parenting, birthing, pregnancy. I started off wanting an intervention-free birth, and now I've kind of led my life that way. My parenting is intervention-free parenting, as well as just like a spiritual journey that I've been on as well. So if any of these things in this video resonate with you, or if you yourself have had a spiritual pregnancy, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I had never heard of a spiritual pregnancy until I experienced one myself. You know, I grew up in a very religious family. I just really did not resonate with a lot of the ideals or the stories or any of it. I believed like we die and that's it, and that essentially there's no purpose to us being here either, which is kind of crazy now because it's like I've done a complete 180. Some signs of a spiritual pregnancy. So if other people dream about you being pregnant, or are like they have visions. So someone I knew actually had a dream that I was pregnant, and at the time I was feeling symptoms of pregnancy, but I had no idea what was going on. But so if people are dreaming about you being pregnant, or maybe you just have this feeling that you're pregnant even before it shows up on a pregnancy test, like you just know in your heart that you're pregnant. Maybe you yourself are having dreams of this baby and you've never experienced that before. So all of these are signs of a spiritual pregnancy. And all of a sudden someone messages me like, hey, are you pregnant? And I had been having all these symptoms, and it was almost like the minute she said it, I was like, oh my God, like I am. I said, no, there's no way. Like I reassured her. I'm like, you know, like I've been told I'm infertile and all of these other things. Like I don't think it's pregnancy. One of the things that really bothers me is like telling someone who's 20 years old, no other health issues, that they're infertile. That's just one of many ways that it's like I just take it as fact. Like if a doctor tells you that, it's fact, right? But it's not. It's not. It's just one of many times that healthcare providers have been wrong in my motherhood journey. So yeah, I was. And actually this was the first time I could get pregnant, the one and only time I could get pregnant. I got pregnant. I don't use birth control. I don't use any hormonal, anything like that. I found it when I was on birth control. It just destroyed me, sent me into like a deep depression, messed with all of my feelings. So I do not believe in birth control. So for years we were just using cycle tracking and the notorious pull-out method, which, you know, it was effective. My grandmother, she never was on birth control ever. She had the kids that she wanted, and she cycle tracked, and she knew which day she could get pregnant, and that was it. She had the kids that she wanted, and then she stopped. And this seems like such a wild concept to people because we're force-fed this idea in schools, which is to prevent teenage pregnancy, of course. Like, no, pull-out method is not working, and it's essentially the idea that you guys are not smart enough to cycle track and pull out correctly and do all of these things. And on some level, yeah, I wouldn't trust children to know that either. But that is what we use, that is what works for us. And the only two times that we've essentially tried to get pregnant, I've gotten pregnant. And that's met with such resistance. Like people just believe like that the only way to do it is birth control or condoms or whatever, but that's just not the case. With my son, when I was pregnant with my son, my first pregnancy, the closer I got to delivering is when I started experiencing so much more spiritual energy. It's energy I just didn't even know what to do with. It started off with, you know, my whole life thinking I'm going to give birth in a hospital and all of these things, and that doctors know everything, and that, you know, they know your body better than you would, which is incredibly inaccurate. You know, they've been wrong so many times on my journey and I've had to keep proving them wrong, and pushing every boundary I can to make sure that I have the pregnancies and births that I want and desire, which shouldn't happen. You should be able to birth exactly how you want. Nobody should be able to tell you and your body how your journey's going. The closer I was getting to birth, I started having dreams, and you know, my ancestors would be visiting me in these dreams. It was women that I knew were my ancestors, but I had never met because they were from generations that had passed already. And they would come to me in these dreams and tell me that everything I'm doing is good, and that I can have this birth naturally and all of these things. And as you know, if you've watched my birth story, that didn't happen. And I think part of it is because I was not spiritual at all. I didn't know what to do with these messages, and I just believed the doctors on the spot when they were like, you need a C-section, your body can't deliver this baby. And if you know about Valerie, I ended up delivering a bigger baby on my own vaginally. So obviously what they were saying is not true. Again, how would you know what's normal for me and what's normal for my family? My family has big babies, even though we're not big people, and they've all had successful vaginal births. So the idea that someone can come in, not know you at all, and arbitrarily just say, you can't deliver that baby, is insane. And I wish I had more of a connection to, more of a spiritual connection and intuition and all of these things. And of course, I just didn't. But looking back now, all these dreams, and it was so emotional. I was crying every day because of all of these messages. They were cheering me on. They were telling me in these moments where I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. They were coaching me in these dreams. They were passing this knowledge down because they could see I needed it. And so this is something that I've just never experienced before in my life. But I knew even in that moment that they were guiding me through my pregnancy. They were giving me this message that everything was good and I'm going to be okay. And unfortunately, like I said, I was like atheist up until my first pregnancy. So I just didn't know what to do with any of this. And I ended up listening to a bunch of doctors that honestly, I don't believe to this day are correct. You know, I think I could have delivered my son on my own naturally. But anyways, that is why I'm sharing this with you guys. So for those of you that don't know, I am status indigenous, and a lot of my culture and history has been wiped. There is not a lot of information of how my ancestors lived because of, you know, genocide. There's no other way to put it. So I have ancestors, I have great-grandparents that were in residential schools. You know, these are people who held me as a baby. Like, I met my grandparents. They held me as a child. So this is recent history. This is not something new. Like, if you live in Canada, you know that this exists. And I think largely I am a very white passing person. But I am indigenous. It's in my blood. It's in my genetics. And I truly believe the reason I was rejecting a lot of this Christianity growing up is because I more so aligned with a lot of these ideals from my indigenous ancestry. And throughout all of this motherhood journey, which starts the minute you become pregnant, I have felt this intuition guiding me with all of these choices that I've been making. And a lot of the practices and the intervention-free birth and all of these, or even just like some of the exercises and rebozo and all of these things, that we were doing while I was pregnant are, you know, there's a lot of indigenous roots to a lot of what I was doing. And I didn't know that at the time, but like looking back, it all makes sense. It makes sense why I was rejecting all of these ideals that I can't birth, because all of my ancestors did it. And me wanting other people with me is what my ancestors did. All the women in the community would be there while you birth. And so part of the big reason people don't believe we can birth is because they've never seen someone do it. But what we have done for generations is every woman in the village would be there while you birth. So they would, even the kids, they would see this powerful, beautiful thing that you do with grace, naturally, and they see this power and they know it's within them growing up. But I have never seen someone birth. I have never seen even an animal birth. And so this removal and privacy thing that happens in the hospital where you go away to have a baby, you know, you don't see what a woman can do. And so until you see it, it's really hard to believe that we can do these things. And so, yeah, so some of those things with that spiritual pregnancy has led me to be where I am today. And then with Valerie, it's like I knew that cycle, I was pregnant. Even when the period happened, I had started it right after my wedding. Actually, it was the day, like this 2 days after my wedding. And as you know, like pregnancy, they count the weeks from your last period. So it was like from then, when I was done my period, it was like I knew I was pregnant. I probably went through like 20 pregnancy tests, because every time I peed, I'm like, I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. This was even before the conception. The actual conception happened. It was like this weird paranoia that came over me, and I was like testing every day. Like I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. I don't know why, but I'm pregnant. If you look at the videos that I took a video of the pregnancy test, and you can hardly even see a line on it, but it was like I knew that it was positive. There was the faintest, tiniest, like you would have to use, like even with the picture I took, you would, like at first glance you'd be like, no, that's a negative pregnancy test. But I just knew I was pregnant with Valerie. With this pregnancy, I did acupuncture, and I had never ever tried acupuncture before. I had been doing acupuncture to try and initiate labor naturally, essentially, because I didn't want to be induced or anything like that. We were having this conversation with my midwives, and they were all really concerned. I had just had a C-section. They have this worry that the scar on my uterus would rupture. Uterine rupture would occur when I'm trying to birth this baby naturally, especially if it's a big baby. So there was a lot of pressure on me to have this baby before it got too big. And your risk of uterine rupture even after a C-section is so small. When you are contracting, the blood comes into your uterus and everything comes up, and then it's a push down. So that's what a contraction is. It's up, down, up, down. And so that increased blood flow can cause the uterine rupture. The likelihood of it happening still was like next to none, but because of that, I had to have an OB. Even though she never even did anything, the OB had to be in the room while I gave birth because of this slightly increased risk. We're still talking less than like 2%. Way less than 2. I was like 1.6% chance of something happening. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure there's like a 1.6% chance every year that you're gonna get into a car accident. So that doesn't mean I don't go into cars. So yeah, while I was at my acupuncture visits, I'm thinking about all of these conversations, and they were weighing me down. I felt this enormous pressure. I'm like, yeah, she's still not in the right position. Like, she's head down, which is, that's all that really matters. But she hasn't turned, you know, so, you know, she's not in the place she's supposed to be. And I was just kind of feeling so down about all these things. And I went to my acupuncture session, and we did a pressure in between my eyebrows. Some people call this the third eye one. And something happened that I just couldn't even explain. Like, it was like I all of a sudden was connected to my baby. And it was like Valerie was telling me, it was like my daughter was telling me, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm sorry I'm not doing enough. I'm sorry I'm not being perfect. I'm sorry that, you know, I can't do this. It felt like a connection to Valerie, because people forget birth is half the mom, half the baby. The baby needs to do what it's got to do too, right? If the baby's stressed out, the baby needs all of these things too, because they are an active part of labor. And I started crying on the table, and it was like I was talking to her, and I was like, listen, you are doing exactly what you need to. You are the perfect size. You are the perfect baby. You are doing exactly what you need to. And whether you are 7 pounds or 10 pounds, we are going to do this thing. I don't know why I said 10 pounds, but I was talking to her. It was this deep, it was like it had unlocked this connection, which a lot of people feel anyway. They're sharing your nutrients. They're sharing the same body with you. This connection is there. You just need to unlock it. And this acupuncture visit unlocked it for me. It was the most crazy experience of my life. Again, just like a spiritual thing that I never would have thought could happen. And she ended up being 10 pounds. It was almost like after that conversation, she's like, okay, as long as I'm 10 pounds, Mom can do this. Like, so I'm good. I'm gonna grow to be 10 pounds and then I'll be ready to go. And I didn't feel that with Beckett, I guess. I talked to him every day, you know, but I didn't feel that inner connection until Valerie. Both were spiritual pregnancies, just completely different ways. And from then on, from that acupuncture appointment, I felt like I could talk to her. Every time I closed my eyes, I could reconnect to that feeling that I had on that table, and I could like communicate with her. And I'm like, we're doing great. We've got this. It's like we were both pumping each other up for birth, and then we did it. We did the natural birth, minimal tearing, 10-pound baby, naturally, vaginally, even after a C-section. It was just the most incredible thing. So now that I've shared my experience, honestly, I want to know what you guys have experienced. I'm hoping that you clicked on this video because either you've had a spiritual pregnancy or you might think that you've had one. Maybe some of these things are resonating. Oh my God, I've had these crazy dreams. You know, when you look at all the websites, they're like, nobody knows why, but you might be experiencing crazy dreams in 3rd trimester. Nobody knows why. Well, maybe it's something spiritual. People don't want to understand it or explain it, or maybe science can't explain it, but there is this crazy profound connection that happens in 3rd trimester. Every day you get closer to that birth, it's just the craziest feeling. And I'm just so in love with pregnancy, labor, delivery, and motherhood in general. It has just been so transformative for me. And if you're pregnant with your first, I hope it is. Oh my God, I hope you have the best connection. Like, it's just so special. Please, please, please tell me about your spiritual pregnancy experiences in the comments. If you've resonated with anything in this video, I would love if you left me a like, left me a comment. And if you really, really enjoyed it, or you enjoy some of my other videos and you haven't yet, please subscribe. It does help me out. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.